I welcome everybody to a very special Metabolic Mentor podcast. Metabolic Mentor is all about amazing transformations in life, over diseases, transformations of entrepreneurship and business. And today probably is going to be our most impactful, courageous, amazing story that you are not going to want to miss. Obviously, I'm sitting here with two incredible people, Shurie and Phil. How are you?
Great.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. We're feeling good?
Yeah.
So for anybody that just tuned in, or again, if you're YouTube, please like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, shameless plug. But if you're new to these two, or at least Shurie, this is, again, one of those stories that you're going to want to stay tuned for, talking about overcoming some of the greatest challenges ever. So first, I guess I really want to say vulnerable moment real quick. This is kind of emotional for me because there are certain stories that, as the coach, that when you meet somebody and you make relationships that you just lock into, and you're just one of those people that I think people are attracted to, and friendship and relationship, and hearing your story and then wanting this for you so bad, and then to get to see you in person and see how amazing you look and how happy you are. It definitely makes me pretty emotional. So I just appreciate you being here. It's like being someone that was also a competition coach. This is even, the highs and lows are even bigger. And it feels like we've won a world championship is what it's felt like, and there's more championships to win. We've got things we still want to do, but having us here together today is just the culmination of so much hard work. And to see you victorious is just a very special moment. And I just want the people at home to understand how epically crazy that story is. So why don't we go and dig in a little bit and just kind of, if you just want to let people know a little bit about you, and probably, getting into fitness too, like starting your arc of like health, to then get to your fittest moment in life and then have it taken from you. Why don't we start from the top?
So I started my fitness journey when I was 22 years old, and I had just got through a divorce. I got married young, and I ended up gaining like 60 pounds. And my ex-husband was very, he liked to talk about my weight a lot. So that's actually why we got divorced, and it was really rough on me. And so when I was 60 pounds, divorced, I ended up changing my life forever. And I lost 60 pounds on my own. So when I did that, I also lost all my figure. Like I over dieted. I did all the cardio, all the training, was in the gym twice a day, and I lived there. And I think that's also where I learned about who I was as a person, because I always like to say, like, if you breakups make good bodybuilders, and Phil's one of the guys that's always said that too. But it was where I really truly found out who I was and what I like to do, and got in touch with my body, because at a young age you really don't know what you're doing if you're in sports or you're in school. It's not the same. So when I lost that weight, I said, okay, I need to get some implants. And at that point, I was actually looking to do a show, and I felt like that was the one thing that it was required. And I hired a coach, and he was giving me a cookie cutter diet. He's actually known in the industry. I won't say who, but yeah, people watching might know.
I was like,
people watching might know if they know who I am and know my back, because I put it all on Instagram. I was talking about it, and he was like, "Yeah, you're going to need a chest, because that's basically not going to win anything if you don't have boobs." So I said, "Okay, well, that's what I'll have to do." So I, working 3 jobs, trying to make my way, got my implants. Was the fittest I ever was in my life, just by myself. And then I met Phil because he saw the post I made about the guy and online, and he was like, coaches are, he was just going off, because he was pissed off that there I was, this young woman who had to work her ass off to pay a coach. Then I'm facing having to get implants, and that was my dream, just to get my life in order, but also have the body and everything else. What everyone wants, the finances to be good and the body to be good. So by the time I got the implants and, everything was good for a couple of years. And then we ended up becoming a couple. And right in the first year of our relationship, it got really bad. And it was when I was traveling the world with him. I did my first Olympia with him.
So let me stop you real quick for a minute. I think this is important in the story of things. It's like, so oftentimes we run into some crazy challenge, some life-altering challenge, and we're asking ourselves who we are, what life we want to live, and we know we want to improve, but we're not sure how. And one of the easiest things that we can see first is physically.
Yeah.
Right? It was like, I want to change. I want to be better. I'm not sure what that means, but I know if I start with my physique, it's the right direction. And that's why I think thousands of women and men flock to fitness and then find bodybuilding, which to me is one of the best things about the sport, because it's what that says to me is opportunity to change hearts, lives, provide some discipline, and what that can do and grow. And, so you find that, you get that, but then there's so many times in your situation to find that and finally kind of starts to find some identity in that, and then to have it ripped from you. And then everything that was actually helping you was now hurting you.
Yep.
Which is, you feel alienated and left. And so kind of walk us through that a little bit. So I remember we'll drop right here a photo of her looking her best. Girl was looking amazing. Shape was incredible. So from that moment, right, where do things go from there?
So it was good, 5 years where I was fit and I had my life together, where I was feeling great and doing fine on my own. I ended up firing that coach because I realized my diet was no different than a men's physique guy, which was crazy. So I said,
you just diet women like small men.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was wild, but I kept my physique just off of my hard work and just being dedicated, just putting myself first, choosing me. And that was something I was preaching to everyone. I wanted everyone to learn how to love themselves. And so I had a lot of people in the gym follow my journey, see my transformation. And I kind of had my own little community in the gym, and I helped a lot of women. And that was really exciting for me. And I kind of felt like that was my purpose in life. I didn't have, the career job I wanted, or I wasn't right where I wanted to be in my career, but I felt like my purpose was to help others. So my transformation really was exciting for a lot of people. And so I felt like I wore that too. It was like my badge of, like, hey, I did this and I'm going to help you too. And then once stress started happening, life started happening, I was traveling with him so much. We were traveling like 8 months out of the year overseas constantly.
And Phil, in your run, where are you at right now?
We're at 5th, going for number 5.
Yeah.
And
then after 5.
And then after 5, I mean, that's when, we would travel on average 200,000 miles a year. So it wasn't all domestic either. So it was a combination of, I'd probably say 30% domestic, 70% international. So we lived out of a suitcase predominantly throughout our first 5 years of our relationship. And for me, I always train late, which is a no-no on what you talk about. But that was because I have a lot of people that want to, glom on. So I wanted silence. So Shurie would accompany me to the gym. We had keys, so she would always train late with me. So 2-hour weight sessions, not getting home until 1, 2 in the morning, getting up early.
Recipe for disaster. We created that for me.
That happened to contribute to her demise.
Sure.
And what I noticed was in one particular trip, we were over in Prague, and I noticed that Shurie was actually shutting down. Her body was shutting.
I fainted.
She fainted
in front of a lot of people.
And you don't know what to do, especially as a man. You want to be able to, hey, you just need some water. You just dehydrated. You hear the stories about celebrities or coaches like being exhausted. Oh, she suffered from exhaustion. And I'm kind of looking at it like, she shouldn't be exhausted. Like, I'm not exhausted, or I can push through this shit. She should be able to do the same thing because I believe in her and this and that and the other. It's like, no, dude, like she has something that is unknown at the time.
Yeah.
Of what's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
So when we went through that, we didn't know what was wrong with me, because I am also a very tough cookie. I'm a very tough. So it's like, I'm with the champion. I can train at these different hours. We land, we go to a gym, we're doing all the things. I'd still stay on a diet when I was, there. I was always very strict, and I kept him actually more straight and narrow. Because after he would win a show, he'd be like, I want to eat anything and everything. And I would be like, no, we got to be healthy. And so we're very regimented. And so when all these health issues started happening, I really didn't understand why. And I didn't understand where they were coming from. And so it took about 6 years to end up at my worst. And so gradually, I would get worse. And then every diet that I knew, going from keto, I tried keto, carnivore, I went vegan. I was trying to do something with my body to try to shock it, to go, okay, let's try to do this now and see if it responds. Nothing was working. And in fact, the way I used to train was pretty intense, but the training started to diminish because I didn't have the energy and I didn't have the ability to actually just get up.
Was one of the first signs, just out of curiosity, no more pumps or vascularity?
Yeah, none of that. Very watery looking.
And I'd just like to point that out, that for anyone listening, one of the first, and this is going to sound like a crazy thing, but one of the first signs of almost anyone that I see in fitness, health-related issues is the vascularity or ability to get a pump. The exercise doesn't fill them out anymore.
Nope.
And we learned later why that is. I don't want to dive deep, but if you're somebody that is, for some reason, not experiencing the same response physically from the gym, not just in growth, but just vasodilation, fullness. If you're not getting that, that's your first indicator light that like you need to make an adjustment. And if it doesn't happen for a very, very long time, that's a big red warning sign that something else is going on.
Yeah, and that's actually what was happening, because I always loved, if I'm going to hit the gym real quick, I'll do shoulders, I'll do a quick back, and it's just something that, I'm wearing tank tops, and I always wanted my arms to look good. It's just like,
yeah, right.
easy stuff. And so I would look like, I kept telling them I look like a blob. I look like a freak. Like, I don't know what's happening to me. And then we were in Korea, and we got off the flight, and it was literally after he won the Olympia, his fifth Olympia. And he looked at me, we were unpacking our luggage, and he looks up at me and goes, "Whoa, what has happened to you?" He was concerned. And he goes, I can literally shake. He walks up to me and he shakes my back, and it's like it was like water. Like I was full of water and inflammation. And I had these jeans that I would wear that were my stretchy, easy jeans, and I couldn't even get them over my hips. And it was one flight from being, it was like I gained 20 pounds on the flight. It was insane.
So
yeah,
most conditions, chronic conditions that are like Shurie's, which we'll get to in a minute, they don't they grow slowly and insidiously over time, and it just starts taking little things from you. The enjoyment of the gym, not feeling the feelings of satisfaction when you look at yourself in the mirror, having a little bit of brain fog, starting to shy away from certain social events and just little things because of that confidence isn't there anymore. Intimacy, or just, feeling, because a woman needs to feel attractive, to be her best, right?
Yeah.
And in all those personal relationships. And so at first it's like, and what happens to most people, because they can't put their finger on it, they put the blame on themselves. And then the outside individuals, whether it be doctors who can't understand it, or even significant others or friends, they really just think it's just something you're going through mentally or emotionally. And so you're thinking it's mental or emotional, because like they're telling me and I'm feeling like, and then before you know it, it's like, but underneath that, then you find out, usually it's 5 years. Usually the time's about 5 years where something significantly drops and happens suddenly. So like she was just talking about, little by little, and like it's under everybody's radar, but it's noticeable, but it doesn't seem like it's really anything, but you're not sure, you don't want to say anything, you're confused. Then the anvil drops. The first system drops. And many times for women, that will be 20 pounds of swelling. Just you took a flight,
yeah,
right? And now you can't fit into your clothes.
Yeah.
How does it happen that quickly, right? And that's what everybody's always wondering when they finally come in and they start searching for answers. It was like, how did this happen overnight? And then when we do the history, like, no. This was building up insidiously over the course of 5 or 7 years.
Oh, yeah. Because when we got together, just the stress of, changing up my environment, going and also leaving a career job that I worked so hard for, going and meshing into his life and pretty much managing him and helping him with his business. But having to, and I did all his cooking, and I just really held everything together, especially while he was, in prep. That was a lot of stress on me, but it was something that I thrived in because I felt like I was in my element. I was with my person and I knew what I was doing, and I love fitness and I'm all about it. But I burnt the candle at both ends, and that wore me down. But then also the travel, and then also the stress of just what I held in. There was a lot of emotional stuff that I was dealing with because I could not identify my body or who I was when I looked in the mirror. So that was starting right away, and it gradually got worse. And then all the symptoms started coming on. So, hormonal dysfunction. I remember talking to a doctor and they thought they had the wrong blood work because the blood work showed that I was in premenopause at 30 years old.
Well, and you come to that intersection. So there's three forms of stress. It's never one thing. Now, granted, we ended up having something very big. That's a huge component of it. But in and of itself, I don't think it would have been enough to do everything that happened to you. It's usually when one of the three stressors comes, two of them. So chemical, mental, and physical, right? So, and when we talk about chemical, we're discussing like the physiologic, something like poisoning, things like that are happening. Then if you got trauma that you're not dealing with, you go through something really significant. And at the same time, some type of significant physical stressor, right? Hours and hours of work or overtraining or whatever. It's usually the body's such an amazing machine. It can handle any one of those for a long time. But you add two at the right intersection, and anything can happen.
Well, it's interesting you said that because remember when we found black mold? And so we found black mold in our place, and we were leaving to get on a flight over to Germany. And I was trying to grab some of my winter stuff, and I grabbed a pair of boots, and there was mold all over them. And it's a brand new building. So I'm like, what the hell is this? I pull up the carpet, and spores got on my face. And I looked like I had like some I had all these bumps all over my face that I had to go into Germany with all these wild, spores attack. Like I had it under my eyes. And so they wanted to put me on all the medication to get rid of black mold out of the body. And then I tried to go the natural route. So I was doing a bunch of binders and infrared saunas and doing, IVs and all this stuff because I didn't want to put all that medication in my body. And they put me on prednisone. They put me on a bunch of different stuff. And that right there kind of turned the corner for me because it was like I was already stressed. I was already working crazy hours. Then the mold came, and then it was like downhill from there. And
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That intersection.
So that was
and that's why if you're somebody that's out there right now and you're really dealing with a lot of emotional trauma or you're overtraining in a way and under eating, you're running a track that puts you at such risk for damage. All that has to happen is you got to come across the tracks of another stressor. And I see so many people, whether it's work, fitness, whatever it is, they already have the max stress that they have. And if you intersect another form of stress like that, like a chemical stress or something like that, like an alcohol or, again, whatever that ends up being, all of a sudden you've got disease instantly. And you can't going back from there, the life's going to be different. And, I'm sure you've seen it in competitors often.
Oh, 100%. I mean, which you just mentioned, burning the candle on both ends. I mean, it's from all those things combined. It isn't just one isolated incident. It's something that they've done over a period of time that has gone unnoticed.
Yes.
And people don't know what they don't know, so they're not getting their blood work done properly, and they're definitely having someone look at it who isn't a licensed endocrinologist or wellness specialist. They're going through the bro science forums and all those things. And their own ability to not raise their hand and ring that bell and saying, hey, I got to stop.
Yeah.
No one wants to do that because we're always in this society now. We're saying, like, if you quit, you suck.
No.
And I think we all, at some point in time, have to have a timeout and actually sit in it and actually, whether it be writing things down, like how you are feeling, journaling. Like, I still remember that day when those spores, like she pulled that up and I'm thinking, why did you do that? But I get it. But then I'm like, I'm not mad at her, but I'm like, yeah, you did that. But now we have to go on tour.
Yeah.
And it was 6 times the amount of mold from outside to inside.
I'm going to test it.
We got to test it because I was like, I got to get this tested.
Yes.
And I knew that my life wasn't going to stop. But with competitors also, they're just adding in more problems that they don't even realize And when they decide that, oh, I want a triumphant moment on stage, it's like, yeah, you may get that first place trophy, you may get that pro card. Heck, you may win the Olympia, but it's going to damage you 6 months, 6 years down the road, right, into a place where the average Olympia champion isn't here this weekend, right? Because they had something traumatic happen to them during their run,
Yep,
that made them hate the sport that they claim they loved,
right.
because they didn't see these warning signs.
Powerful.
They didn't have someone to, nurture them. I couldn't extract what Shurie was going through. I could just be present, and I'm not saying I was perfect at it, but I literally was just like, what the hell do I do?
Well, let's be honest. Whenever a loved one or when it's a team, you guys are a business at this point, right? And you're a business,
Oh, yeah.
but you're also lovers,
That's right.
but it's a team, and team members are got to do their part, or they're being a bad team member, right? And at first, when you don't know what's going on, that's what it feels like. So you're going to respond in that way versus the care and empathy required for someone who's suffering until you recognize what's going on.
Right.
I was suffering from massive obsessive compulsive disorder as a child into my school years. The number of people that came at me like, just stop doing what you're doing. There's nothing, you know what I mean? Like, why are you being a bad child? Why are this? And sending me to like went special schools and stuff like that, like for my attitude versus what was going on, right? And so I can identify with that what we call that misidentification of people from the difference between choice personality and suffering from a condition.
Yeah.
And so we all become aware too late. And it's a lot of forgiveness just has to happen with that, because we're all going to figure it out.
But you have to slow down that train.
Right.
And I think the problem in all of our lives right now is that everything moves so rapidly.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, there's no way I could have said, I'm going to stop competing. Shurie, you and I just need to stop everything and just get this sorted out.
No, there wasn't on that.
It just doesn't happen.
And I did
that sometimes, and nor was she asking that. She was a warrior. She's like, no, I got to do this. And I'm like, yeah. And the unfortunate part was that we were getting the answers from various specialists throughout the world. So for her to try different, modalities and different diets, it just was, she could be drinking water and she'd gain like 5 pounds. We could have an argument and she'd gain 15 pounds. And that's when I realized there's disease in here.
Yeah.
And now we don't know. And that's when Shurie happened to be what I say her own first responder and started really researching everything. And that's when she reminded me about, women with breast cancer, women with BII. And I was like, what is that? And then started getting a little bit more full with that, started talking.
Yeah, I mean, I started to realize.
And even real quick, on a day-to-day, what I want to do now is I really want to take a moment to really look at like what a day was like when those symptoms starting to like peak, or where they were at this point. Like, what was your life experience like? I mean, how much weight, the swelling, all the things.
Yeah. So I would gain on average 20 pounds in 6 months, 20 to 30 pounds.
Every 6 months.
Yeah. And then I would lose like 10 by just basically starving myself. It was like I knew that if I didn't eat and I did some cardio, then probably drop some weight, just because everything I ate made me bloated. Everything I ate made me gain weight. And then at that point, I realized, okay, I can manage this where I know I'm going to gain 20 pounds from just like, because when he would win a show and then we'd go on tour, and then I was the one that everyone would go to for everything. And so I'm the one that's taking all the hits, right? So that would cause me stress, and it would cause me inflammation, and I would gain weight just from existing as a human being. So I knew that if I got home and I had 4 weeks to myself, a month to myself, I could lose 10 pounds, and I could figure it out. I got in the sauna, I would sweat, because I thought, this is water weight, I got to sweat it out. So after doing that to myself and not realizing that I was damaging myself there, we got to a point where in 2017, we were at the Olympia, 2017, and I started to have spells of when stress would get bad or something would happen, and of course, leading into the show, the week of the show was insanely stressful. I was starting to pass out on the wall. Like, I had family members grabbing me and putting me upright. I would be running to the bathroom to throw up. I just wasn't well and I couldn't figure it out. So during that show, I was also gaining weight as I was there. And so when we got home, 2017 through 18, I gained a good 30 pounds. And so I just stopped wanting to go outside. I didn't want to go on trips. I'd say go alone, which was hard for our business because people were used to a system and dealing with us. And then it was like he was all by himself and he didn't have me. And we became such an amazing team. It was like we were one person.
Well,
so it kind of changed everything. And so every day I woke up, it was basically me saying how I didn't want to be here anymore. So at that point in 2018, I realized I got to do something. I talked to some friends. Actually, it was Courtney King, one of my good friends.
yeah, shout out Courtney King.
Yep. She was like, Shurie, I'm going to get my implants out. And I was like, why? I was like, what's that about? So I thought, well, that's the way to do it because I had all these symptoms and I ended up having over 58 symptoms. The doctor diagnosed me with Hashimoto's, fibromyalgia, mast cell activation syndrome, and PCOS. And then I thought there was one more. Well, I already had Epstein-Barr virus as a kid.
FYI, if you're dealing with so many conditions that you can't even remember all the names, you're going through a lot. And Shurie was definitely going through that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot of suffering. A lot of, every day was just really hard.
Yeah.
And I did my best to get out of the house. I didn't want to be seen with him. People would make remarks. And unfortunately, any industry related event like an expo, our bodybuilding show, but mostly the Olympia was really hard because people would notice the change in me. And even in 2017, before I really tried to figure out what was wrong with me, people were DMing me, fans. They said, you look horrible.
Yeah.
Like people were just talking about me, other champions and their wives talking about it. But just people were saying a lot of mean things. And so I had to get really tough there mentally to try to be like, you know what? They don't know me. They don't know my heart. They don't know what I go through. I'm not going to let that bother me. Deep down it did. I think anybody is going to be bothered by that.
This is the part that I want people to recognize that are in the fitness field. You may not think that a lot of people are dealing with health issues, but that's because they withdraw. They don't publicly announce these issues. There's physical things start happening to them. They're now it's starting to become aesthetically obvious. Oh, yeah. They're feeling the pressure. There's some judgment, right? And people don't know at this point. They think it's a personality or a lifestyle decision problem and not like a condition. And so they just withdraw. And so, I would argue that, in the sport, at least 1 in 6 females have had some issues that have led to metabolic health conditions. And the reason that you're not aware that it's so prevalent is because they just bow out. They disassociate from the sport, which is really sad because it was the place that fed them. It's still a community of people that care. But I think we get so aesthetically focused that we're afraid that they won't accept us anymore because we're not in the club, because we're where we're at. And that fear and the potential rejection just leads them to exit stage right without even asking anybody.
And it's really what happened. I mean, and you were so amazing. You were so supportive and loving, and it was hard on us in our relationship because obviously it was like the elephant in the room. Like, okay, I'm headed to 200 pounds. This is weird.
Yeah,
I was 130 when we got together.
Phil.
Yeah.
Most great champions have a great relationship behind them. What was it like winning your 5th championship and your number 1 is now out, but now you're recognizing that like, oh, it's a condition. And so you're going to have to manage the weight of that, but also the expectation of being the reigning champ and continue to press on with that legacy and what it means. And then going into those last 2 titles, what was that like for you?
Oh boy, it was hell because, look, I always felt like if I could just take it from her and wear it, I would love to do it. Like just give me your illness because my body can take it. Like that's how I viewed it. I was like, I'm like the type that I rarely get sick and this and that, but just give it to me. I'll use it. And I couldn't. And to watch her body change. Of course, I love her, but it was like my love was being tested in such a different way. And I had to learn how to communicate a lot better, because being a bodybuilder, you're very self-centered. And that's a part of it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It is what it is. You want to be an NBA champion?
Yeah.
You're going to be...
Greatness requires some of it. Yeah.
She's already been submissive in that area, but now I realize that it's becoming a detriment to her health. And so I would try my hardest to say, well, Phil, if you ever complain about a prep, eating broccoli or whatever, or doing 2 hours of cardio or whatever, look at her. So there was times where I was injured. I would be screaming and hollering at gym because I'm like, I'm fighting my own fight. But if I'm going to fight, why don't I just fight with her and let her know that any ounce of energy that she's putting into me is not going to waste it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where you want to quit inside of a prep or let up a little bit. But when I know that she's dying, I'm like, it has to mean something. These titles have to mean something. And the world may not know that, because neither one of us are the types to be like, hey, we're going through this. And
No,
I'm just not like that.
I had no idea, because I've watched your career for a long time.
Yeah.
It was a big source of strength for me when the whole world told me I couldn't do what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
And so knowing what that team and how important it is, one, to be the best that you can be, but now two, having to step back and try to, also be there when before you could just be solely kind of focused on the mission at hand. And now you're having to evolve, and yet somehow evolve with one arm behind your back and still be the best in the world.
Yeah. And look, thank you. And Shurie's a warrior, no doubt about it. She's a warrior for the fact that she's so present with every day. So, and it taught me how to do the same. And so when I'm competing, I'm like, when I would tell people, these guys have no chance against me. And it's like, no, you guys have no chance because you don't know what I'm personally going through in this relationship and what this really means. And she means everything to me. I want her, we're links on a chain. I can't be out here and her be back there. I'm like, I will slow down and say, come on, baby, let's go just a little bit more. And if she's ahead of me in certain aspects, she does the same to me. So we're like always like this. And when I noticed that she was declining, I'm like, damn, I can't. What the hell do I do, man? Let's just figure this out however we can. So when she finally did, get some relief of knowing that Courtney King was dealing with some issues.
Yeah.
When Shurie brought up the whole BII thing, started researching, I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
And then as she dove more into it, I'm like, holy.
Well, once I decided that I was going to do it, Courtney helped me get to the
Shout out Courtney King.
So I went to Dr. Fang, who's an incredible surgeon, one of the best that does the explant surgeries. And so, I had to wait 6 months for my surgery. And that's when my life got really, really, I was touch and go. I didn't know if I was going to survive the wait. And I kept calling every week, asking if anybody canceled. So during that phase of waiting for 6 months, that's when I declined really bad. In 2018, he took second at the Olympia. Right after that Olympia, we had some family issues, a lot of trauma stuff that had happened during that show, and no one really knows about. But it was really tough on us.
Right.
He had his second surgery again, for his hernia. I made sure he was okay. And then it was kind of like after everything was over, we got home, it kind of just set in, and it's just like a weight hit me. And I'm going, I'm not well. So that's when I booked my appointment to see the doctor. And then we decided that I was going to get it done. So that waiting period.
When the body finally says enough.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
So all of from 2000 April 2000, right after the Olympia, 18 to August of 2019, I was so sick. I was using a walker to get around the house. He wasn't going to compete in 19. Everyone wanted him to, and he looked incredible. He could have. But he said, I have to be here with you. And he had to travel a few times. And when he traveled, I had just launched one of our companies on my own. And I was in bed. I had to crawl on the ground to get to the bathroom. I was puking on myself. My whole body was just giving out. I couldn't function. And so it was really scary. And every day I would just pray and ask God to get me through it. And I would just say, if you do this for me, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll do whatever it takes to live. And so during that period of time, they did a lot of testing on me. And so my blood work was horrible. And then the doctor said, I really want you to get a scan done to see if you have cancer, because you do have a lot of symptoms that
Sure.
I think could be cancer related. So when they did the scan on me, they couldn't get inside underneath my armpit. And so they did it twice on me. And this is like a 2-hour thing. And they did the dye and all that. And I was already so sick. And I had to drive myself because he was out of the country. And I had to stay in the car and wait hours to drive home after, because of the dye, the reaction to the dye. And I was just sitting in the parking lot, puking my brains out, scared. And I had no friends in Denver. I was like, I could leave the car here. And I was just on the phone with him crying. It was late where you were at. But I knew that was like I said, this is it. Like, this is what it's like to probably I'm probably going to die. Like, I just thought that was over. So through that time, I barely made it to my appointment. It's in Ohio, but I was in Denver. And because he had seen me so sick, he had to wait on me hand and foot. He was I would lay on the bathroom shower, the floor in the bathroom, and I would just lay next to the drain and I'd just puke all day. And he'd try to bring me water and he would bathe me. And there I am, 203 pounds. And it was really hard to have him, just his expression on his face, like, I love you, but you're going to probably die. And I just want to just be with you anyway. Like, I'm not going to leave you. It's like, but I didn't want him to see me like that, because it was just like, I wanted to die. And I would struggle with why am I asking God to live when every day I just want to die? I just want to give up. I don't want to be here anymore. If this is what it's like to suffer, I don't want to suffer anymore. So during that time, I was I was non-existent online, and I kind of just checked out, which is rightfully so. What the hell do I have to tell anybody? Like, oh, have a good day, everyone, kill it. Like, go train or go, what do I say? I don't have anything to talk about. And
right here is a good moment though. 'Cause during this time too, people aren't looking at you as like a wounded individual who needs support.
Right.
They're looking at Phil, and coming in, coming in second. A lot of times, a lot of people that want to be the haters, that want to tear down, right? What they're looking at is a potential spot for weakness.
Uh-huh.
I saw some of that at that time, and knowing some of the negativity and the naysayers being like, I told you so, or this or whatever.
Oh, we got hit hard with that.
And yet not leaning on, not trying to use anything as an excuse. Mm-hmm. You didn't, you weren't going to throw her up as your, people don't know this stuff. And that's why they're so great. I mean, a lot of the story they're sharing for the first time ever, you're hearing stuff that's pretty exclusive nowhere else. And so to hear the story and to know that they were going through that and still handling it like the champions that they are, it just been so powerful. It's really had a significant impact on me. And I've seen some of the worst stories you can think about, but just knowing that you stood strong through that is just something that people need to know at home, that was happening.
Thank you. Yeah. When I knew that I was going to get to the surgery date, they got me in a week early, and I was just hysterically crying. I was so happy to get that opportunity. I actually made my mom go with me because I knew I was going in high risk, but they told me already I was high risk. They said, you have a lot of allergy symptoms, and if we start pumping you, we're going to give you 3 rounds of antibiotics in the IV. We're going to give you probably Benadryl for your mast cell, because I was rashed out from head to toe. I had to be prepared, God forbid, if something happened to me, and I didn't want him to have to be there for that. And I was like, you know what? My mom took me when I got my implants in. She's going to we'll just make it a thing where you're going to come with me. I'm going to get them out.
Just so people understand at home, where they talk about mast cell activation, the body is producing, imagine just getting normal allergies. Imagine that flaring up 200, 300% to the randomest things. You never know what it's going to be. The body jumps all over with it. And just imagine getting almost bee sting allergy sick to different things on different days all the time and not sure what it was going to be. And then it creating big amounts of rashes, eczemas, the distension, the SIBO that's with it, the histamine responses, just going from 5 pounds of water in the face to 10 instantly, and just the constant up and down, the vomiting, all the things. I want people to put themselves in that position for a minute, because that's what it's like when you've got this kind of systemic upregulation of the immune system, and what we find is an infection.
Yeah, and every day was different. So one day that it like, for instance, if I would wash my face, I would have a reaction. And I got to the point where I was like, okay, I can't use these products. And then I couldn't have cologne around me, so he couldn't spray anything. We couldn't use certain stuff in the house. I would walk into a grocery store to go shopping on a day that I felt decent enough, because I wanted to participate. I still wanted to be the support to him, and I wanted to cook for him. So there I am, in the house with a walker, leaning on a walker, trying to make him eggs. And then I can go to the store, I can, and he would call me, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm in the car. I had to go outside because I, had allergic reaction, and I felt like puking because they would put that cinnamon scent in the store. It's always like the cinnamon smell, and cinnamon would just literally kill me. I didn't allow him to put it on his oatmeal anymore because I could smell it. I mean, it was like, we just couldn't do anything right. And so my face, I had really bad dermatitis. And everyone's always said to me throughout my whole life, you have great skin. Like, my face would peel off. I would just peel it off. It would be so swollen. And I couldn't do I couldn't do anything right. It was like I would do something one day, and the day that I put coconut oil, and then that would respond to that. And then I couldn't do that anymore. So I just literally felt like I was just a problem, and I just needed to stay inside and not talk to anybody. And that's where, that 6 months was hell. And when I got there to my appointment, I had to actually get a wheelchair when I got to the airport. And I had to use a wheelchair the entire time until my appointment. I was wheeled in to my appointment. And, she said she had me, dressed down in the pre-op appointment. And she just was like, she started crying, my doctor. And I guess that's not a great feeling when you're like going in a pre-op and your doctor's crying. But I was like, well,
at least they care.
Yeah, she was just like, I got to give you a hug. And there I am, like, I weighed in at 204 pounds. And she gave me a hug, and she said, I believe that God got you through this, and I'm going to help you. And I just said, you're all I got. Like, you're it. And if I'm giving it all to you right now. Let's just do this. And so after surgery, my surgery went longer than she expected, because what we didn't know that was inside my chest was implants they were textured implants. They were, I had done some research prior to the appointment because I wanted to know about the brand that I had. They were, my implants were illegally made in a non-FDA compliant manufacturing plant in Brazil.
And there was, during this time, she caught the tail end. There was a decade of this going on.
Yeah.
And so when we go back, the difference between, like, this was in a way a poisoning with it, which is different than some of the other BII that you may be hearing about today. There was a period of manufacturing and illegal activity and suspicious activity that was going on in the breast implant market. And she was certainly a victim of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these implants, back in the day, they used to make these implants called PIP implants, and they were where my mom would have gotten sick from them. There's women that had died from these implants, but they came out of the same manufacturing plant. So this manufacturing plant wasn't, legal. They also did cocaine in the same. It's crazy what was going on there.
There's stories you can actually learn, research it, learn about some of it.
Yeah, and I actually had to Google Translate to Portuguese to read it all. because from Portuguese to English, because there was a huge newspaper article on it. And so what they didn't do is tell all these people, it was Sientra was the brand from Beverly Hills. They didn't tell people to get them out. They just said there was some kind of manufacturer defect, but you're fine. Because I got a notice from them. And I called this.
That's nice.
Paper, like a little postcard.
Yeah.
And so.
Wish you were here.
Yeah.
By the way.
So, and I also called them very angry during that 6 months of waiting, because I had some fire under my ass one day, and I said, I'm going to fight these people. And Phil said, you're probably not going to get anywhere, because they don't care. And there was no recourse for me. The manufacturing plant, they lit themselves on fire, literally burned to the ground, because they knew they were going to get in trouble.
Yep.
So these implants were filled with shower caulking. So when they took them out, they were very piss yellow, like extremely yellow. And on the textured part of it, there was mold. And so Dr. Fang, said, we're going to throw this into pathology. We want to make sure everything's good with your tissue and all of that. What she told me was, in 30 years, she's never seen the capsule outside of the implant was so thick. She said, I've never seen something this thick. It was this thick. It was disgusting. And she was so excited that I was coming out of surgery, and she goes, wake up, like, I got to show you this. Like, I can't believe this. This is crazy. This came out of you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And they refer to a capsule. The body, anytime you put a foreign substance, will usually, particularly with silicone-based implants and things like that, will develop a tissue capsule by immune cells start to congregate, essentially, and they start to make its own like lipid layer that goes around it. But what the body's trying to do is essentially block off the foreign substance. And a little bit of that is common. The more that you get, the more immunological reaction that you're having, and the more in danger that you are. And this is something that's hard to see in a mammogram or any of that kind of stuff. And so what ends up happening is you really don't know the full extent, which is why BII is very real for many people, and they don't know until you get in there. And when you have something that's 1.5 inches, an inch thick, that means you're having the strongest immunological response, like that the body was trying to save her life by encapsulating this off from the system. And that's what was happening. So when she talks about that capsule and that lining for it being that large is incredibly bad. Yeah,
it was crazy. And she said, I don't think you would be here another 6 months from now.
No.
I think we did it. I think we saved your life. And I said, well, she goes, I got it all, Shurie. There's so much. And she goes, I think you have some leaching from the textured piece into your bloodstream. We're going to have to really hit it with, she was really big about diet.
By the way, for resources, what doctor was this?
Dr. Fang,
right,
out of Ohio.
Fang, right.
Yeah. She's a microvascular surgeon too. So she's got the tiniest little hands, and she helped give me back, she kept it all intact. So that was great. Yeah. And she, she saved my life. She saved my life. And I'm so thankful for her because, and now I got all the scars. I actually had a double infection after my surgery. She told me that would probably happen because of how sick I was going in. She said, your body does not want to heal this wound. So you're going to get an infection. So I did. And that put on a lot more inflammation. And then we had an India trip, and we went to India 4 months after. And there I am changing the dressing on my chest, and I have these holes in my chest. And I got this wound packet, and I'm in the expo bathroom in India trying to patch myself up, and I'm the biggest I think I've ever been swollen-wise. Yeah. So I go in at 203, 204, and then I get out. The inflammation comes down a little bit. My face is like bright. I look like I'm back to life. My eyes are no longer yellow.
Yeah.
And then I'm having autoimmune issues that still aren't calming down. So that's where it was like this yo-yo effect of just trying to go, okay, we're getting somewhere. No, we're back. We go train, and then you are out for 3 days because you did a light leg day. Yeah. Like that's the kind of, and so it was an uphill battle. So from 2019 till I got with you,
yes,
I've been suffering the effects of, OID and
we'll talk about that in a second. That's so, Phil, watching her go through this, and usually being the lead guy, right? Being the lead because you have greatness requires it. And now we're not just in a year or two. We're going on. This is now 5 years.
Yeah.
And or so. How has this a little bit changed you as an individual and changed your relationship?
Well, I love her more every day, a little bit more every day. I know who I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with someone who is an extreme fighter.
Yeah.
And extremely resourceful and intelligent. A lot of people in my opinion, would have given up.
Yeah.
A lot of people, in my opinion, would have just, like I said, just laid down.
Mm-hmm.
And Shurie was all about finding answers while still loving me. And I really understood what love really meant. And to watch her go through this, and I would always tell her, I'm like, you're going to have this triumphant moment, I promise. Like, I promise, I just know, because deep in my heart, I just felt like, God, like, this woman's suffering, man. Like, just deliver her from this toxicity, like this evil, like, get it out. So then it's like, okay, she got the implants out, but yet now we're kind of comparing her progress or lack thereof to other women.
Yeah.
So she's like, hey, like, I should, yeah, in my face, I'm fine. But like she said, like, I'm still yo-yoing, what the heck? And then, yeah, being the leader, and try to figure out my own life, like competing and all that stuff. And then and then dealing with fans too. And fans wanted her to, like, well, Shurie, like, you should you should be there for Phil, like, because we so selfish.
That's a threat.
That what I learned was how the world is, but how strong she is. And the fact that while she was going through this, she was always on the phone with other women dealing with yada. I never encountered an individual that is suffering in such silence and being so giving.
That's what I see.
Yeah. To me and to the world, like, to women that she's talked to so many women who she hasn't met yet.
Yeah.
She's talking to you, like, yeah, and until today, like, and I'm like, wow, like, I'm staring at a goddess, man. I'm staring at, like, greenness. I'm staring at, a person that has, in my opinion, a great testimony.
That's right.
Because she battled one of the greatest tests I've ever seen. And it just so happened she happened to be with someone like myself who was required to have a certain high standard. And I'm just proud. And I know that she deserves all the spoils now.
That's right.
She deserves all of the love,
right,
and the self-love that she's now recreating for herself with this new body and new feeling, and
which we'll get to that in just a second.
But for me, man, like, it's just, I'm just glad that we have this moment. I'm glad that she met you. I'm thankful for it all, even though she almost died from it. I'm thankful for it all because we got the answer.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. I love you.
So oftentimes mold, breast implant illness, all these conditions, they actually are is a diagnosis that actually comes from an additional underlying condition. The poisoning may have triggered it, but for so many women, it could just be deep caloric deficits and high stress triggers the immune system. It could be birth control. It could be alcohol, drug use, steroid use, the wrong medications. There can be usually something gets in because of an emotional stress weakens the immune system, like your illness, and then something gets in, an EBV, a mold, whatever, and it over-triggers the immune system. And now, okay, we got rid of the trigger, but the real underlying condition that's still there is actually growing, right? Because now other symptoms are getting worse. Now you can't lose weight at all. I mean, you could literally see in your history, you can eat no calories for days and somehow gain weight.
Yeah. Shit was crazy.
And
it didn't make any damn sense.
It's I'm laughing now because they're leaving
water's wrong. And I'm like,
yeah. Right.
It's not funny, but I'm like, what's in this shit?
Right. Right.
Well, it was at this, we literally was just saying, it's unreal. This is unreal. And it was wild. And what I will say is that the journey of getting them out was like step one. It was like, okay, that was an important part, because that did save my life. If those were in me, I would have,
Exactly.
my body wasn't going to adjust to anything and I was going to die. That's that. But then there was, now here I am. I did what I was supposed to do. Now I'm comparing myself to other women and I'm hearing their journey and I'm very happy for them, but I'm wondering why is it not happening for me? And then that's where I fell into depression. And then while I was going through that, I had a doctor she did everything she could for me. She wasn't understanding of much more than, the autoimmune. She was an autoimmune specialist, but she was an integrative doctor. And she did dabble with the hormones, the HRT. So she had me on the progesterone. She had me on my thyroid medication, which she kept low. She didn't want to overdo it because I would have panic attacks. I was starting to have now the mental part of the pain. And that's where I felt so dark and so alone and so confused that how I went through this whole process of almost dying. I was so thankful to be alive. I remember I would always remind myself, you came out of surgery and you could see again. I was losing my eyesight in my right eye. And I'd have to have him drive me places towards the end of waiting for my surgery. So there I am looking outside, and she opened up the blinds, and I could see the leaves on the trees. And that's when I hysterically cried out of surgery. I said, I can see the leaves again. I can see it's so pretty outside. And I remember just going, I'm so thankful to be alive. And then, 6 months later, now I don't want to live anymore. Now I'm mad and I'm pissed and I'm angry. And now all that stuff that I held inside while I was trying to just survive, now it's starting to turn to anger. And I'm wondering, why is this me? I've done everything I was supposed to do. I helped other people. And I was thinking about, I didn't want to live anymore.
This is why people fear hope.
Yeah.
Because one of the worst things that happens in disease is you get struck with something you didn't ask for. Hope seeps back into your life. And then it's taken from you again. And it's at that next moment that really the champion's mind has to come out. And I'm talking to millions of women across the world that are dealing with something right now, and men, but this is women's focus right now, is that moment. A lot of people do give up. There's suicide, there's all kinds of things happening. And it's because the terrible relationship with hope, right? To be given some and then taken away. And that's why people stop, they give up.
Yeah.
Because they can't go through it again. Yeah. They can't lose the hope again. How stay hopeless rather than to gain hope and have it taken from me again. And you were at that moment.
Oh, from all of 2020. Because 19, I was like, I heard it's like 6 months to come off the medication from surgery, giving myself some grace.
Yeah.
And I really did. I loved on myself. I was just very loving to myself. I look in the mirror and say positive things. I did all the things, I'm trying to love on myself. Just love yourself, Shurie. And then 2020 was like, okay, now the demons were coming out. And so,
good.
It got weird because he was just like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I effing hate my life. I hate waking up every morning. I just wish why didn't God just take me? I would rather be effing dead. I can't even look in the mirror. I hate the way I look. And it's not like someone losing their ab line. You know what I mean? I'm talking about an apron stomach. I'm talking about grab your full stomach and jiggle it. Just so huge. I felt so huge. Yeah.
Show another photo right here of where it got. And, and then being stuck
there.
Looking at a person in the mirror that you don't even recognize.
Oh, yeah. I did.
I've done everything right to not be that way.
Yeah.
And that for the sport and the fitness, to be everything that's supposed to help you and to give everything to it, and then it to be the enemy, the alienation that you felt, so many can feel that. And so going into that, then fast forward a little bit, then we meet.
Yeah,
right.
We met, and I remember the day that I decided, and I talked to you, and I said, I think I feel it in my spirit. I know I've said that a lot, because I've always he's poor guy. I've always had to bring to him something. Well, I found something I think's gonna help me. He's like, okay. He's always game. And I said, just look at the before and afters.
Most men are not, by the way. Shout out to you for continuing to look for answers.
Yeah. So I looked at everything that you had done for Mallory and Andrea, and I was like, okay, I know her and I followed each other during my BII situation. And so I just hit her up and I said, I'm not okay and I need help and I need to figure this out. And she was like, yeah, and then I found out right at the same time you had DM'd Vince. And it's like we were both in the same spot. And it was like it just aligned. And yeah, and I knew that working with you, and after just talking to you when we talked for the first time, I said, this is the person that I'm going to trust and I'm going to surrender to. And when I got off the phone, I said, I'm fully surrendering. I'm going to put all my trust in Vince.
We spent multiple hours together. And when I got to know their story and then everything downloaded, watching his title run, knowing that this is going on. And it was just one of those moments where I said, I'm just going to put it on the line and say, we are going to have victory. And I'm not going to stop until we do. If you're willing to commit to me, I'm going to commit that to you. I said, we're going to do this, right? And I'm never going to quit as long as you don't quit on me, right? But I told you we were going to get it done because from a coach, that makes me have to put it on the line. I'm not just saying, hey, I'm going to perform a service and I hope it goes well. Let's hang out and see what happens. That's not what you needed. You needed certainty. You'd been through enough. So someone else was going to have to put it on the line as much as you've been on the line and get that same commitment because it's so hard to get going and lose hope. Yeah. And you'd been everywhere.
Yep.
You'd seen all the doctors. You'd done all the things. You didn't need just more hope. You didn't just say, I think this is going to go well. You needed certainty. Mm-hmm. And I knew that I had to provide that for you. So when I made that commitment, I knew what I was saying, right? And I needed that from you too, because this kind of condition is so hard to beat, and coming out of that, our first intake together where I kind of showed you what I'd been working on for 15 years and this concept of OID, overactive immune disorder, and how the medical system and other coaching programs and whatever that's out there was coming at it the wrong way. And that, side note, what you'd been doing after the breast, the explant, we're going to have to scratch all that, throw that shit in the trash, and you got to do it my way. That's a lot of trust I'm asking for. Mm-hmm. And then that's why I got to put it on the line, right? And then so it's like, take out all the hormones, everything the doctors put in. Goodness, we're just gonna scratch that. And to think that, one, to have to go away from the small blocks you thought you'd put in place that were the right answers, but two, the fear if you take these out, could it even be worse?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. Tell me what that was like the first day when I said, okay, the first day you went to take all the hormones out, the thyroid hormone out, and all those things. What was that like?
Phil knows, I was actually excited. I was like, let's just do I have this in there. Okay, let's go.
It's called the gift. It's called the gift of desperation.
Yeah.
You're so desperate. You're like, all right, yeah. If we're gonna jump off a cliff, let's do it. Right.
Yeah, I was full on ready to do it. And I was excited, and I knew it was going to be a lot because I knew the change was going to shock my body, and it did because I did gain.
First.
I gained like over 10 pounds, and it was because it was just for those like 2 weeks during the flush and all that. And that was wild, but I knew that you had a plan. I needed to hear that. And I needed someone to say that to me. And you were actually shocked because that was like the first time you really felt that,
well, the proof is in the performance. And essentially you were just like, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going anywhere till the job is finished. And a lot of people don't say that. And there's a lot of coaches out there. And, my opinion about coaches is, what about the adjustments you have to make? And because there's so many different permutations that occur within what she's going through. And you're like very, very willing to do it. And that's where I'm like, this guy's my family, man, because you're changing my family. You're assisting us to live a better life as a couple. And what also struck me as a positive was your ability to communicate with me as far as like what to expect and where my ground rules should be. I'm like, oh, okay, I got some ground rules. Basically, Phil, don't be a dick. She's going to go through all these different types of things. You just got to tighten it up. And I thought, yes, because this is a team effort. And I thought, man, this actually, for me, it felt really good because now I get to be with her on this. Yeah. Whereas maybe some other guys don't look at it that way. But for me, I recognize how she's been, so giving. Now it's my turn. And yeah, like understanding like, hey, she's going to have these mood swings, or that she's going to have a random emotional day. How do I need to respond? How do I need to comfort her? How do I need to be more self-aware of what I'm going through? Because I live a stressful life too, and I can't bring that shit to her.
Right.
No matter what. And then what in the event something does happen, how to de-escalate situations that she may be going through. She could have a full-on anxiety attack, and I got to be able to understand what that means and be able to, and these are things, I'll say it now. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm like a -2, how to deal with those things. Right. Because it was all about me.
Yeah.
So being able to understand that, you and I communicating, and then the progress that you would provide me, I could see it.
Yeah.
But to get the feedback from you, help reassure me consistently that we're in the right place.
Yeah, we would talk a little bit. This was her Olympia run. Right.
Yeah.
And it gave you a chance to give back what had been given so freely to you.
Yes.
You know, and I could see that moment and that opportunity. And so I just really wanted to be able to communicate with both of you while you were going after it. And for me, just so everybody knows, 15 years of trying to discover the truth, because I saw so many women like her dealing with different conditions, and we couldn't figure out why was there still all these lingering issues and other things getting worse. And I just did not quit. I was unwilling to believe that this was good enough. And so, we went into this, and I asked you to remove all the meds. And of course, at first I knew you were going to rebound slightly, and that we were going to have to be brave together and work through that. And then I was going to ask you to do some things that are completely opposite to whatever anyone else was telling you, right? Because we're looking at a body metabolically that's upside down. Therefore, everything that works, you've got to do the opposite of that, which means you're doing things that classically would mean shouldn't work or are not good for you. And you were brave enough to walk through that with me, right? So it really came back to that factor. I know in this first call, it's got to be trust. It's got to be bond. And those moments really bond me like I feel like we are family, right? Because this is like the trust fall. Because if you bail out on me or I bail out on you, it's going to be bad. When you go into something like this, right? When it's this deep, it's this serious, there's this much on the line, and I knew that going into it. And that's why I just had to show my cards first. I'm like, I'm all in. I don't care where this goes. I'm going to figure this out.
Yeah, spoke our language because we love that energy.
Yeah.
That really is what set it off for us. Because I was all ready. I mean, this is the first time, right away when I work with you, I got off thyroid medicine for the first time in 7 years. So, and I still hadn't been on it. I'm on your thyroid medicine. Yeah, that's all I need, right? I mean, it's amazing because I was on a high dose of Arvin thyroid.
Yeah.
I went from, the synthetic stuff to then it was a lot of different thyroid changes.
What people need to understand is that with immunological conditions, if you add hormones on top of it, it can actually just make it worse, or you turn into a watery mess. If you have inflammation and you try to add hormones on top of inflammation, you just end up with water. And so today, here we are, 6 months? 6 months. Go ahead, producer Keone, drop the picture before and after. Look at this sexy woman we got here. Incredible transformation. We're down 22, 25-ish, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Right
I think
now.
we're headed down more. We started at 198.
That's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, 198, and I'm 165
okay.
now.
Yeah, so that's like 35. Look at me stealing from her. I'm so sorry. I'm with that, but come on, man. Look what I'm doing. So here, but the key is no hormones, right? No thyroid medicine, which people go, how can you lose weight without thyroid medicine? Well, ta-da, mofos, ta-da. And so, and now today, the thing that's important, we went through so much together. Can I share on the gut?
Yes.
The most challenging case of SIBO I'd ever had. She literally, the poor woman, fought through this. She was eliminating worms.
Yep.
Significant cups full of worms for over 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And she couldn't recover from the reoccurrent SIBO. Today, no SIBO symptoms. None of the symptoms almost. Almost all symptoms are gone. Down 34, 35 pounds. The inches that she's lost, the bloating. I mean, she just looks incredible. Again, for me to see her in person and just to see this beautiful woman that I knew was in there, to see it come to the surface and to see you here today victorious. And we have so much more because
Oh, yeah.
we got the champion's mind.
Yeah.
We ain't done. We got shit to do.
We're just getting started.
We're just getting
That's
That's right. But for everyone out there, anything is possible if you don't give up, right? Applying that champion's mind. It's so incredible to see really two champions sitting here today, one on the Olympia stage and one over disease, right? And to be able to get exposed to that and know that there is hope. And I just want to thank you so much for being brave today and sharing all of that, putting it on the line, because there are thousands of women that are going to watch this video and they're going to get hope. And it's the one thing no one else can give them. So I just want to thank you today.
Thank
We
you
got
for
more to
changing
do.
my life.
Phil, thank you for believing me, brother. Right? We got more to do, big guy.
You're a blessing
And,
in my
well,
life. Thank you.
Yeah. But anyways, thank you so much for tuning in to another Metabolic Mentor. We'll catch you again.